Hey, lovely pirates! I am your Captain V.
And I am fast mate Telma.
In this week's show, we will sail to Telma's home in Japan.
Japan has endless yokai stories or ghost stories that go back centuries. Today, we will discuss two vengeful spirits that go by the names TEKE and KUCHI-SAKE Onna. Before we begin, take one last look around you and grab your rum. Okay, so I'm going to start off today's episode with the ghost of TEKE. So many years ago in Hokkaido, Japan, there was a young schoolgirl called Kashima Reiko. She got into a horrific accident. She was beaten severely by her fellow schoolmates and fell onto a railway line and was not able to get away from the oncoming train. While she was still conscious, the train sliced her in half. Her dying words were, "Please help me, help me." And now she is a vengeful spirit who goes by the name of TEKE. Her name comes from the sound she makes when she uses her hands to drag her upper torso around. She usually hangs around train tracks or urban areas, but she has been sighted in other places too, like schools. If you happen to see her, you better run as fast as you can, because if she catches you, she will slice you in half with her scythe.
What is a scythe?
A scythe is a tool that the Grim Reaper uses to reap souls. It's a long stick with a long curved blade on it, and it's also used to cut grass.
And there's no way to escape, or?
Yes, if you manage to say a certain incantation or a magic word, she will leave you alone.
What kind of incantation?
I searched, and the incantation that I found was Jigoku ni kaire, or go back to hell. I think you're supposed to say it in Japanese though. I also heard that if someone tells you the story, she will appear to you within a month, usually in a school's bathroom or your private bathroom. And she will ask you 3 questions in Japanese. She will ask you, "Where are my legs? Who told you that? And do you know my name?" I will tell you the answers, so listen very carefully. When she asks, "Where are my legs?" you say, "On the Meishin Expressway." When she asks, "Who told you that?" you say, "Kashima Reiko told me that." When she asks, "Do you know my name?" you say, "Mask, Death, Demon." And then she will leave you alone. The reason you say Mask, Death, Demon and not Kashima Reiko is because the kanji or the Chinese characters used for the name Kashima can also mean mask, death, and demon. However, you will have to answer these questions in Japanese, so get studying, V.
Oh my god, I'm not sure I could even pronounce it with my life on the line.
I guess you're doomed. I have a couple of stories about TEKE. And the first story is about a young boy who was leaving his school one evening. And when he was leaving, he heard a noise behind him. Looking back, he saw a beautiful girl sitting at a window. The girl had her arms propped up on the windowsill, and she was just staring out at him. He wondered why she was there, because it was an all-boys school. When she saw him looking back at her, the girl smiled and hugged herself so that she was holding her elbows. Then suddenly she leaped out of the window and landed on the ground outside. The boy realized with horror that she was missing the lower half of her body. She made her way towards him, clawing along the ground and running her elbows, making a tick sound. The boy was filled with terror and revulsion. He tried to run, but he was frozen to the spot. Within seconds, she was upon him, and she took out a scythe and cut him in half, making him into one of her own. Now, usually when kids tell this story, they warn each other about TEKE, and they always say that she carries a scythe, and if she catches you, she'll cut you in half, and you'll become just like her. And she is said to chase children who play at dusk.
So is this something limited to the dusk?
Well, she attacks anyone who sees her, basically. If you just see her, she will catch you, but this could also be a story to scare children so that they're not playing around at nighttime and so that they come back home before it gets dark. A lot of ghost stories are used to scare children because they never follow the rules.
No, that would be too simple.
So, I have another story, and this story happens during a hot, humid summer evening in Japan. So, there was a Japanese boy, and when he came home from school, he noticed that he forgot his Japanese dictionary. He had borrowed it from his sister because he needed to use it in class. "I'm only lending it to you today," she said. And when he remembered his older sister's face, she was a little bit annoyed, so he had no choice but to go back to school to get it. After passing through the school gate, an unfamiliar girl was looking out through the window of the infirmary. "Have I seen that girl before?" he thought as he passed by. He greeted her with a hello, and the girl looked at him but didn't say anything. She just looked at him and smiled, with both elbows resting on the windowsill. After entering the school, he went to the classroom on the 3rd floor to see if his teacher was still there. Of course, there was no one else inside the school building because it was nighttime. He was all alone. The Japanese dictionary was in his locker, so he went downstairs thinking that everything was going to be fine. He passed the infirmary and looked inside. The girl in the infirmary was still looking outside with her elbows resting on the windowsill. But the girl didn't have any legs. "Yeah!" he said, unintentionally. Then the girl turned to face him. The smiling expression turned into a horrific one. And then she suddenly came towards him. He ran away desperately, with the girl chasing after him, dragging her upper torso with her arms across the floor, making a ticky-ticky-ticky-ticky-ticky sound. She was so fast, and the distance between them got smaller and smaller and smaller. He could feel a foul-smelling breath on the back of his neck. "Oh, she's going to bite me," he thought. And suddenly he stumbled upon something and fell down. However, it seems that he was one of the lucky ones. The girl couldn't stop because of the speed she was running at, so she crashed into the wall and just disappeared. Perhaps that spirit is called TEKE, but since then, no matter what happens, he will never go back to school after dark.
Whoa, okay. So in both stories, Teke is waiting by the window.
That's a good catch, V. I don't know why she was waiting by the windows, but it's just one of the many places where Teke is hanging about.
Whoa, so you better watch out. Do you have any more stories?
Actually, yes, I have one final story, and this one does not include waiting by a window. So, this is a story that I found online. I don't know if it's true or not, but I found it on a Japanese website. So, I'm going to read it as it was written in first person mode. I was someone who didn't believe in ghosts. My friends would often try to scare me by telling me ghost stories. But one day I was walking home at night on an unpopulated road near an unpopulated train station. I was surrounded by rice fields in the countryside. Usually I walk home with my friends, but that night I was walking alone. I should have waited around for my friends, but I was tired after working my part-time job, and I wanted to go back home as soon as I could. As I was walking past the rice fields, a person out of nowhere fell down right in front of me. Usually there are homeless people or drunk men who often walk these roads and are constantly falling down. I thought, "Oh, not again," and walked past them when a weak voice said, "Wait for me." Even though it's annoying when someone calls out to you, there is no excuse to not help. So I turned around and went to help the person. When I realized they were missing their legs. There was no blood around them or anything. They were only a torso. In the countryside, there aren't many streetlights, so it was dark. But I wonder if it was Teke. With my heart beating fast and my blood turning cold, I turned around and ran away as fast as I could. They called after me, "Wait! Help me!" I ran and stopped on a bridge to catch my breath. As I looked up in front of me under the streetlights, I saw someone coming closer. I could feel my sixth sense warning me to escape, so I ran again. When I turned around to see if someone was behind me, I could see that it was a female torso chasing me. I could hear them laughing, the most disgusting laugh I had ever heard. I was getting closer to the train tracks when I turned around and saw that they had disappeared. But with my heart beating faster and my blood turning even colder, I continued to run when I felt something grab my ankle and I fell. I lost consciousness. When I woke up, I was in a hospital bed surrounded by my family and friends. I had been saved.
Oh, wow. This sounds terrifying.
I know. Can you imagine just walking a lonely country road with that's dimly lit with barely any lights, and then a person's torso just falls in front of you and then starts chasing you and grabs your ankle?
I actually can imagine, because when I was younger, there was like this long road between my house and the place I was mostly visiting my friends at, and there was no lights there. So it was like a pretty long path with no lights. So I always imagined somebody jumping from the bushes.
Yeah, it's like one of those situations when you're walking up the stairs and you just turned off the lights downstairs and you're like, oh my god, the demon is coming. So you just run up the stairs before it grabs you.
Exactly, frightening.
Yeah. But this time, because you've heard the story of TEKE, now you're also going to imagine the sound TEKE.
So pirates, I hope you're ready for some more stories. Starting in one of the 47 prefectures in Japan called Gifu before the 1800s, villages lay between mountains and rivers. This city has played an important role in the Japanese history due to its station in the middle of the country. From the 1400s till the 1600s, various samurai warlords and clans fought to control the country. The area was used as an attempt to unify and control Japan. So let's imagine endless villages surrounded by rivers and mountains, cold in the winter and warm in the summer. A beautiful woman is married to a samurai lord. War raged and never did she feel safe. The samurai, however, left her with a young peasant man to help her with their lands while he was away at war. Sometimes the samurai left her for a few months, up to a year. She grew closer and closer to the young peasant man, as he was her only company. At some point, the samurai had not been home for a few years, so she thought he had died. Some time later, she and the young peasant developed an intimate and romantic relationship. Then months passed. One day, after she came from the village in the late afternoon, her house was dark and empty. She felt a cold wave move over her. She knew that something had happened. When she came into her house, the samurai was back and stood by the window. He knew what had happened. In order to seek revenge, he sliced his wife's face. From ear to ear, the lower half of her face was mutilated. Later, when the peasant man returned, the samurai asked him if he still liked her beauty, and then he sliced him in half. The wife later died from her scars. This is the story of one of the legends behind KUCHI-SAKE ONNA. or the slit-mouth woman. Other legends say she was mutilated by a woman who was jealous of her, or mutilated during a medical procedure. There have been many horror films based on her, but KUCHI-SAKE Onna was on everyone's mind in the 1969, which can be found in print in the newspaper, weekly publications, and magazines from that time. Later, she became famous in both Korea and China in the 2000s. So in the end of 1960s, children mysteriously started to disappear. Everyone was so scared of allowing their children to go alone to school, so they started to have them chaperoned. However, it did not fully stop, and chaperones started to experience odd things on their trip to school. Imagine your chaperone starts coughing or faint for some reason. You look around, and when looking back, a woman stands there. She is said to wear a mask over her lower face. She is said that her beauty shines through in her posture, in her hair, and in her eyes. So how could she be bad? Her clothes are said to be a white kimono with blood, or a red without. She is tall and so fast that it is said if you try to run, she will appear to you, always in the front. She carries a sharp object, whether it is a knife, scissors, or swords. And people have heard that she always asks the same questions, and the consequences are always the same. Her first question is asked with a very high-pitched voice. Do you think I am beautiful? If the answer is not yes, she kills them immediately with a sharp object. If they say yes, she removes her mask and says again, do you think I am beautiful now? If the answer is not yes, you will be killed. But if you say yes, she will carve out a smile on your face. Later though, it's said that in the night she visits your residence, and when you go to sleep, it is said she will wake you up and kill you. Similar stories also exist about her attacking people at night, asking the same questions. How would you ask such a question in Japanese, Thelma?
You would ask, or you would say it, 私綺麗?
And how do you say yes or no?
Yes is はい and no is いいえ.
Alright, pirates, then you know that. I hope it becomes useful if you ever go to Japan. However, one historian explains that KUCHI-SAKE Onna is an example of a yokai, which is a class of the paranormal, supernatural, spirits and demons, and that they can appear in the form of a human, or in the form of an animal or an object. These spirits are possessed with emotions and personalities, and in the past, rituals were used to prevent misfortune and to alleviate the fear that had struck people from unexplained events that had happened. So, I would like to add one more story of the slit-mouthed woman, or KUCHI-SAKE Onna. So a woman had to relocate close to her mother's house as she was living alone, and she moved with her daughter and husband, so they all could help each other. However, a few months ago, they had stopped accepting new residents at the complex of her mother for some reason. Her 10-year-old girl was often left with her grandma in the morning, as her parents went to work. Then later, she often walked alone to school. The woman had some odd feeling about the complex, and at some point her daughter asked if she was scared. Her mom said, "Me? No, of course not." However, when the mother was growing up in this neighborhood, there was a story about a cleft woman that roamed. It was about a woman with a very odd mouth that seemed to stalk other people and children. However, she never heard or saw any proof. Later, her daughter asked if she was scared of the cleft woman. She replied, "What are you talking about?" Then her daughter said that there was a woman around the school who was trying to ask children if she was beautiful. The sweat froze on her mother's skin. She was scared. So the next day, the mother took her daughter to school, but did not see anything on her way there, thinking that maybe this was just an ongoing story from her youth as well. However, when she then later in the day picked her daughter up from school, she asked her mom again that there had been a woman outside the school asking her if she would want to come with her. This woman asked her daughter if she would want to come with her because then they could be friends. But shortly later, and thankfully, a teacher also stood there and this woman vanished. When her mother heard this, she immediately wanted to go to the police. She wanted to let them know that there was a stalker around school that could be very dangerous to the children. So when they were on their way there by foot, there was a person in distance. She had a very long black hair and a mask. So when they were walking there, in the opposite direction, the woman stood. The mother felt that something was wrong. However, she did not want to be rude. She looked at her daughter and wanted to ramp up the pace a bit. But as she looked back, the woman was getting closer. Something was not right. Something about the speed she moved was unnatural. Something about her face. Her daughter was so scared as this woman took off her mask. All the teeth, all her mouth, it was all gone. As they saw this, KUCHI-SAKE Onna started to run towards them. Immediately, her mom took the hand of her daughter and started to run as fast as she could. But the woman was already next to them. Her daughter was so tired of the running and she could not keep up anymore. And as they were running, suddenly the woman was side by side. She took the hand of the girl and said, "I want this kind of a girl too. I want her." Her mom was so scared. However, she still managed to keep running. Her mother had to drag her daughter by the hand and was not gonna let go. She was not gonna let go until she saw the police station. She was not gonna let go until she could run no more. As they were finally in eyesight of the police station, the woman had suddenly vanished. When she asked her daughter if she was okay, she said, "Yes, I will be okay." When they walked into the police station, blood was running down the child's leg. Even though she would be okay, the slit-mouthed woman was able to cut through her pants with the scissors. So, 2 years later, after this event, the woman had moved and relocated with her family and her mother to another town. Then, one day, in the local newspaper, it had been written that where her previous house was, or her rental apartment, and where her mom's previous complex was, a child had been mysteriously murdered. And the worst thing, it was not the only child.
I find it interesting how both our ghosts this time are women wielding blades, slicing people, cutting people up, And on our last podcast, our ghosts were also about women. So, listeners, in our next podcast, we will be featuring male ghosts. So, I hope you guys will be excited. And to leave you on a positive note, I would like to tell you guys about Shinto and how that connects to what V was saying earlier about the yokai spirits. In Japan, they have this religion called Shinto. And in Shinto, people believe that even objects have spirits. So good or bad spirits. So if they're bad spirits, it would be called yokai. And then you also have good spirits. And this is why when Japanese people drop objects or they break something, they say, "I'm sorry" to the object, because they believe that that object has a spirit inside. And that's just a little fun fact about Japan.
Oh, that's very interesting.
But I want to go back to V's story about the KUCHI-SAKE ONNA. I actually want to know, why do you think she is focused on young children?
The reason for her kidnapping and killing young children is unknown. Maybe she blamed her husband for making her so ugly that no man would ever want to have a child with her, so she decided that other women did not deserve children. Or concerning the other legend about the woman who did this to her face, that she prevented KUCHI-SAKE Onna to ever have children and wanted other parents to experience the same grief that she had.
So it's kind of like TEKE, where she mutilates other people so that they can experience the same grief that she experienced when she got sliced in half.
Indeed, these are very vengeful spirits that
absolutely
want other people to experience the same as they did.
Okay, V, so earlier you said that there are movies based on KUCHI-SAKE Onna. Could you please tell me what those movies are called?
Yeah, so in 2007 there were 2 movies made, Carved 1 and 2, which is about KUCHI-SAKE Onna. And there was also another movie called The Slit Mouth Woman in LA that was made.
Okay, nice. There's also a movie about TEKE.
Ah, cool. Okay. And what is the name?
TEKE.
Ooh, okay. That's creative.
Right? TEKE 1 and TEKE 2.
Ah, also 2 movies.
Yeah.
And these movies are in Japanese, or?
Yeah, they're in Japanese. And there are also a bunch of short films based on TEKE, but I'm not sure exactly what they're called.
Okay, yeah. So, Pirates, if you are interested in watching some of the movies, the ones I said are both in Japanese. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed the today's stories.
So, if you ever come across the KUCHI-SAKE Onna or the TEKE, you need to brush up on your Japanese and remember the incantations to get rid of them. So, until next time.